All right, it's Wednesday night. We're back at it. Feels like it's been a long time. Feels like it's been a long time since I hung out. I guess if you're listening to the audio podcast, it hasn't been that long because we had an audio podcast last week. Of course, our regular Wednesday night, and then we did a post-game audio podcast on Thursday night after the Carolina game. The old drive home podcast. You know, I just couldn't. I think I got home from the game on Thursday night after the North Carolina game, maybe at 1:30 in the morning, somewhere around there. Now, granted, it's funny. I didn't think we should do a post-game live stream because it was going to be too late at night. I didn't want to do a post-game live stream at like 1:30 in the morning or something. But I got home at 1:30 partially because I was taping the Drive Home podcast. And like the drive from Heinz Field to where I live in the South Hills, maybe 20 minutes, you know, if there's a little bit of traffic. And certainly, you know, at 1 in the morning on a Thursday night, early Friday morning, 12:30 and, you know, early Friday morning, there's not that much traffic. So it's not that long of a drive. And I think the Drive Home podcast after the Carolina game ended up being something like 40 minutes or so. It didn't take me 30 or 40 minutes to drive home from Heinz Field. But what happened, and I forgot that this happens during the Drive Home podcast sometimes, that I see where I'm at, and I'm like, I got more things I need to say. There's got more things I want to say. I don't want to turn off this podcast yet. It's not like radio where, you know, you do radio. I do the Panthers Insider Show on Saturday mornings on the Fan, right? 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Well, it's very sort of constricted, right? I mean, it's 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's 1 hour. But really, you know, segments, I could tell you, I mean, my first segment is supposed to be 10 minutes and 30 seconds. My next segment is supposed to be 4 minutes and 25 seconds. The next segment is 5:25, 6:15, 5:25, 3:55. So it's very kind of constricted. You know, I got to be done at certain times. We got to hit certain breaks and get the update and commercials and all these things. Whereas these podcasts, whether it's this right here, what we do on Wednesday nights or post game, or it's you know, the Drive Home podcast, I could go as long as I want. I could go until I'm done having things to say. I can go until I run out of, you know, observations about the game. And so I'm driving home from Heinz Field, and this is what always used to happen before we started doing the live stream post games. I'm driving home from Heinz Field, and I live, you know, like I said, in South Hills. So I mean, I'm coming through the Fort Pitt tunnels. You know, coming from Heinz Field, I'm getting off of that Banksville Road exit, and I'm driving up Banksville Road, and I'm like, probably only about 5 or 6 minutes home, you know, away from home. I need to add in some extra time. I end up going all the way down 19, down to like Connor Road, and I'm looping back up on Library Road, just all over the place. Adding extra time so I can keep talking into my phone, recording the Drive Home podcast. So I didn't want to do a live stream because it would be too late at night on Thursday night. I didn't want to do a live stream at 1:30 in the morning, come home and sit down and fire this up. But part of the reason I didn't get home until 1:30 in the morning is because I was doing the Drive Home podcast and stretching that out. And I still ended up sitting in the driveway, still talking into my phone for even a little bit longer to finish that thing. So anyway, if you listen to the audio podcast, you know, this is not the first time we've talked since Wednesday. There was a post-game podcast that you could listen to, you know, the Drive Home podcast. But as far as live streams, this is our first time hanging out since last Wednesday night. And, you know, obviously the game on Saturday coming up, Pitt hosting Virginia is a 3:30 game, so we'll have a regular post-game live stream after that. The Syracuse game, the finale at Syracuse, I'm not going to be making that trip. I think Jim Hammond is going up to that one. I'm going to be staying back, so even if it's a night game, we'll be able to do it. You know, they kick off at 7 or 7:30. I mean, I'll do a live stream at 11 o'clock. I don't mind that. It's just doing it after midnight. Even if we started at 12, I think I would do that. But, you know, waiting until like 1 in the morning would just be a bit much. So we'll definitely have post-game live streams after the next two games. If Pitt then plays in a game 1 week later, I haven't figured out what we'll do in the event of that just yet. And we won't cross that. You know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. You know, we'll figure that one out when we get, you know, as time progresses. But here we are. We're back again for another Panther-Lair Show. Appreciate everyone tuning in. In case you're wondering what this is or who I am, I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. You can see The website is written right there. That's not a link. Don't click it, but you can type that into your, into your web browser, Panther-Lair.com. Pittsburgh.rivals.com is another way to get there. It's the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, recruiting. We've got it all at Panther-Lair.com. And honestly, if you look at the front page of Panther-Lair.com right now, or this week, I mean, everything's there. There's football coverage like crazy, as you might imagine. There's basketball coverage with the Hoops team finally getting a win there. There's recruiting coverage all over the place. I mean, there's a lot. This is some of the most content we've ever had, even during a season, is right now. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff to read on Panther-Lair.com at this moment, this week and this period. And then, of course, there's message boards where you can talk with other Pitt fans about everything that you're reading, everything going on in Pitt sports. This is what I always say. I mean, we'll have news on Panther-Lair.com. News gets reported elsewhere about Pitt. And then everybody, wherever the news is reported, comes back to the message boards at Panther-Lair.com and talks about it and talks about what's going on with Pitt sports, football, basketball, or recruiting. So if you're a Pitt fan, that's the place you need to be, is Panther-Lair.com. Panther-Lair.com. Pittsburgh.rivals.com. And so I want to give a quick shout out before we jump into some of our main topics tonight. I got to give a quick shout out to Home Field. You should know about them by now. I got the sweet warm up the victory lights shirt on. I mean, you got to love this logo, right? I mean, that's just sweet. Classic old timey helmet, script logo, warm up the victory lights is sort of hyper specific to, that's a Pitt thing. You know what I mean? That's not just sort of a generic go team go type of cheer, and that's what they've got at Home Field. It's something that's very sort of specific to the school, and they put it on great shirts and great gear. Now, it's just high quality shirts and sweatshirts. Now, I've told you about the promo that we've got on Home Field right now, right? Or if you're a first time customer, use the promo code LAIR, you'll get 15% off your order. But check this out. Coming up next week, Black Friday, the 26th, through Cyber Monday on the 29th. Okay, so you're going 26, 27, 28, 29. 4 days. All items, everything, 20% off for the entire sale. You don't need a promo code for that. 20% off. Okay? Now, they're going to sell out of things because that's an absurdly good deal. All right? So you want to make sure that you order as early as possible in that sale window. All right? From Black Friday through Cyber Monday. You don't even need a promo code. It's 20% off. Perfect gifts for any sports fan you know. Perfect gifts for yourself. If you just want to get yourself a sweet Pitt shirt. That's the time to do it. You can get gift cards. They started selling stickers, and they're trying to get it up to every school. I have to check and see if they have the Pitt stickers yet. Some long-awaited items, things are going to be back in stock, like tri-blend gray crew necks and oatmeal hoodies. It sounds delicious, and I think it looks awesome. You got to go to homefieldapparel.com for all of your Pitt stuff. You know what I mean? If you want to get sweet Pitt gear, that's the place to do it at homefieldapparel.com. So make sure you do that. So like I said, Pitt's got Virginia on Saturday at Heinz Field. Number 18 Pitt, 8-2 overall, 5-1 in the ACC. And they're taking on Virginia, who's right behind them in the Coastal Division standings. They've got 2 losses in conference, and they've got, like Pitt, 2 games to play. They have at Pitt this weekend, and then they face Virginia Tech in the season finale. A regular season finale. And this one's for all the marbles. This is for all the Tostitos, as they would say. Pitt has an opportunity in this game, and you know this, to clinch the Coastal Division, clinch a spot in the ACC championship game. And a very realistic chance to do it. But when there's something on the line, when there's something to play for, when there's some real tangible success to achieve, and not just things like keep up the momentum, or, build on what they've done, or what are these other things that we always hear Pitt being accused of? Oh, every time they've got a chance to turn the corner. No, it's nothing like that. This is something you can hold in your hand. This is something that mathematically you can calculate. This is something you will get a trophy for. Okay? You don't get a trophy for turning the corner. You don't get a trophy for keeping up momentum or looking like you're really stepping forward or any of this other nonsense. You get a trophy for winning a championship. And if Pitt wins on Saturday, they win a championship. And it's a championship they've won before. They won it 3 years ago when they went to Wake Forest with another opportunity to clinch the Coastal Division, and they did it. And this game's unique. This game is not like that Wake Forest game 3 years ago. That Wake Forest game 3 years ago, I don't even know what Wake Forest's record were, but they weren't trying to compete to clinch the Atlantic Division. Wake Forest was out of it. I don't even know if they were playing for bowl eligibility at that point. But they didn't have nearly as much to play for as Pitt did. And that game, it ended up being, 30-13 or 33-13 or something like that. But it was like 10-7 at halftime. It wasn't a blowout, at least through the first half. It ended up being like rather close at halftime, as I recall, and Pitt ended up, coming back and winning, comfortably. Although they lost Jimmy Morrissey on one of the final plays of the game. That's beside the point. This is a different situation. Virginia still very much has something to play for. They have everything to play for. Now, they can't clinch the ACC Coastal Division with a win, but they can certainly lose it with a loss. If they want to keep alive any chance or hope they had of making it to Charlotte for the ACC championship game, they need to win. And then they need to win the next week and and then they can clinch it. And so this is unique. This is different from that Wake Forest game because Pitt's going to be facing an opponent who wants this game just as badly as they do and for a lot of the same reasons as Pitt does. Now, we know they're going to be, they seem like they'll probably be shorthanded. Maybe the quarterback, Brennan Armstrong, will play. Maybe he won't. It seems like if he does play, he's going to be hurt or limited. I don't know. I think whether you put Brennan Armstrong at full strength or you put him in at 50% or you put in the backup, Jay Woolfolk, who really didn't look very good against Notre Dame. Whoever Virginia has at quarterback, I just don't know how that impacts their ability to slow down Pitt's offense. Now, we'll get into analysis and breaking this game down and what we think will happen or what we think should happen, but I want to come back to this idea that Pitt's got something tangible to play for. And it's funny because, I think Pitt fans are relatively optimistic about this game. And I mean, personally, I believe they should be. I think they should feel optimistic heading into this game. They should expect Pitt, their team to win. And they should expect to clinch the Coastal Division on Saturday. But kind of hidden within that optimism is concern. And the concern stems from the pressure of having something real to play for. Real stakes. Something really on the line. Not just bowl eligibility. And again, not just things like momentum or, whatever, it's turning the corner or something like that. No. This is something real to play for. And pressure, that comes with pressure. That brings a certain amount of pressure. And pressure makes fans nervous. Fans get nervous when there's something real to lose. And it's not the first time this season. I think they felt it, Pitt fans felt that going into the Virginia Tech game. Pitt fans felt that going into the Clemson game. And I think, they certainly felt it going into Thursday night's game against North Carolina. There's been something riding on these games. And they haven't answered the call every time perfectly. There was the Miami game that they lost. Although they were able to lose that, and kind of because of what happened with Miami and Florida State last week, Pitt is still in position to control its own destiny. And even without that game, the Miami-Florida State game, Pitt was still in position to control its own destiny. What that game did was give them the opportunity to clinch the division this week. So they haven't answered the call perfectly every time. But time and again, there was a lot on the line at Virginia Tech. There was a lot on the line against Clemson. There was a lot on the line against North Carolina last Thursday night in terms of continuing to put themselves in a position to control their own destiny. But when there are things on the line like that, it causes fans stress. And I understand that. And I understand why. Here's the thing, though. That's good. That's what you want your team to be doing. That's where you want your team to be. You want your team to be playing for something. You want your team to be playing meaningful games in November. And by God, this team has been playing meaningful games for the last 2 months. This team is playing meaningful football, significant football that has an impact on the season record, obviously, the division, the conference, and nationally as they climb to number 18. Teams ranked between 15 and 20 lost last week. And because Pitt won, they moved up 3 more spots. We were actually scoreboard watching on Saturday. If you follow the Pitt program, you were scoreboard watching. Obviously the Florida State-Miami game, but you were scoreboard watching those teams that were ranked 3 or 4 spots ahead of Pitt to see not only if they'd have an opportunity to clinch the Coastal this weekend, but to see if where they could potentially move up in the college football playoff rankings. When was the last time you were scoreboard watching, to see how far Pitt could move up in the college football playoff rankings? I can't think that's happened very often. Now, kind of in the fortunate position of having played on Thursday night, so that, as a Pitt fan, they won a game on Thursday night, so you were able to sort of be free on Saturday to just watch football and enjoy it and cheer for teams that could potentially help you move up in the rankings. But it's been a long time since there were legitimate, relevant reasons to scoreboard watch with Pitt. And now here they are. And they've put themselves in a position now where the only scoreboard that's relevant is the one at Heinz Field on Saturday, where they don't need help from anyone. They got the help they needed. And they are in control of their destiny. And I think, for whatever you might feel about this team or its coach or its players, and I imagine you have mixed emotions among all 3 of those groups, I think you got to love this right now, don't you? You are playing meaningful, relevant football in November. And like I say, relevant on basically every scale. And it's a pretty special place to be. It really is. And it's fun. It's fun. Even for me as someone who's going to cover a game, it's fun knowing that we're going into a game on Saturday and I'm going to be watching and covering a game that has some significance, has some meaning, some real meaning. And I was in Wake Forest, in 2018, and that game had meaning too. That game had significance. Maybe one of the most relevant games I've covered since 2009 in the Cincinnati game. But like I say, this one is even bigger than that Wake Forest game. Partially because it gets really challenging if you lose this game. If they lose this game, they need help. They need Virginia to lose to Virginia Tech on whatchamacallit, on Saturday, on the final weekend of the season. So I think, whereas the Wake Forest game, they still had another game afterward that they could have clinched the Coastal Division. So they, at Miami, and obviously they lost that game, but, I think there's more pressure on this one than there was 3 years ago. You're facing an opponent who's also trying to reach the same goal that you are, and ostensibly facing a better team. Now, they are significantly better with Brennan Armstrong than they are without him, and that's going to be a big storyline in this game. But they're playing real games that mean something. And for as much as Pitt fans say, give me something to look forward to, give me something to cheer for, give me something relevant, you got it. You know what I mean? Pitt football, it matters right now. It matters in a big way. And that's it's pretty fun. So it's going to be a few days, it's going to be a long few days to get to the season, or to get to this game, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. All right, let's jump into some comments and questions here. I know this is always some of the fun part. I got some thoughts on basketball too, and we'll definitely get to that as some comments and questions roll through. But let's talk about Pitt, Virginia, and see what people are saying. I know we got a super chatter jumping in already. RJ Seaman 38. Let's see. Came in as a super chatter, but I don't see any comments. I don't know what you want to say. It's nice to have games mean something in November. That's fun. I still think ACC Coastal gets treated poorly by the national media. Gotta win. Well, yeah, okay, so that's actually a good comment to start with, RJC, man. There is disrespect for the Coastal Division. There's disrespect for the ACC. There's no question about that. But here's what's great, all right? If Pitt wins on Saturday, they clinch the Coastal Division, regardless of respect, regardless of perception. They clinch the Coastal. Done. If they do that and they go to Charlotte and they win there, they are the ACC ACC champions. Okay, there's no perception involved. There's no media view or anything like that. They are the champions. Period. Point blank. And if they do that, they're probably going to the Peach Bowl. Okay, I think the Peach Bowl is a very likely destination if they are able to win out here. All right, finish the regular season at 10-2, win that the ACC championship game at 11-2. I think you then look at the Peach Bowl as the destination. Okay, and again, that no matter what you want to say about perception or how the national media views them, you can't take those things away. Pitt has an opportunity right now to go out and earn a whole hell of a lot. Okay, and potentially play themselves probably. I would think if that scenario played out, which is the ultimate, obviously perfect scenario, I think they play themselves into a top 10 ranking by the end of the season. Top 12 at worst. Kenny Pickett probably gets an invitation to New York City at the very least, which I think if, barring a severe fall off in the next two games, I think he should have an invitation to New York City for the Heisman ceremony. I mean, if things line up and Pitt does what they should do, perception doesn't matter. The national media's view of the ACC or the Coastal, all those things, it doesn't matter because you'll have real, tangible results. And that can't be taken away. That can't, and you might have to fight some narratives sometimes, like when people say that in 2018 Pitt backed into the Coastal Division Championship, which is not true. They won it outright. They clinched it with one game left to play. They didn't need help. They went 6-2. You might have to fight those narratives from time to time, but you're going to have the accomplishments. And those accomplishments, like I say, regardless of the narrative or the perception, those accomplishments are real and they're legit. All right, Michael B is a super chatter, and look, we always get a lot of comments and questions and conversations here in the live chat. If you want to make sure your comment and question gets read, you can be a super chatter. You click that little $sign down there at the bottom, and you can support the podcast with a couple bucks. We appreciate that. We'll make sure we get to your comments. And Michael B is a super chatter every week. We appreciate you, man, for sure. He says, I'm super pissed at what Pitt basketball has become. The game yesterday was embarrassing. We nearly lost to a team picked next to last in the CAA. One made field goal in the last 14 minutes. No outside game at all. Capel needs to go. All right, so, I mean, as far as Pitt basketball goes, they finally got a win. Obviously, in the time since we last gathered, when we last gathered, they had lost to the Citadel. Judah Mintz decommitted. Ethiel Horton got arrested. I mean, all these things were going horribly wrong. And then they went out and lost to West Virginia by 15 again on Friday night in a game where they turned the ball over 32 times. They beat UNC Wilmington here on Tuesday night. And obviously it's an improvement to get a win. Jeff Capel, I think, said it right off the bat. Like, right now, they need to win ugly. Your comment that Capel needs to go, whatever. He's not going to get fired midseason, or he shouldn't get fired midseason. Keep coaching this year. See what you can build out of this collection. See what you can build out of this team. They were always going to be offensively challenged. This was always going to be a team that was going to struggle to score. They didn't have a lot of great shooters, and probably the best shooter they had got arrested like 3 days before the season started. All right, Nate Santos is maybe the next best shooter on the team, I guess, but he's a freshman. He's still trying to figure out what's going on. He's not the kind of freshman who can step in and be all conference player as his first year. So is a team that was always going to struggle to score, always going to struggle to shoot threes, and they lost their best 3-point shooter. And I'm not making excuses, and I know sometimes this kind of thing will come across as excuses. I'm not making excuses. I'm not, because obviously Capel's responsible for building the roster. Capel's responsible for managing the roster. Capel's responsible for developing the roster. And he's done better in some of those areas than he's done in others. Or I should say he's done worse in some of those areas than he's done in some of the others. But I think if you go into every game expecting this team to be really good offensively, you're going to be disappointed. That's just not who they are. What they are is a team that needs to, A, defend like crazy, which you point out that Pitt made one field goal in the last 14 minutes against Wilmington. I think Wilmington only made like one in the last 14 minutes too. I mean, it was all defense and really bad offense in the final 14 minutes or so of that second half. They need to defend like crazy. They need to own the boards. They need to attack the boards with so much fervor that the ghost of Jamie Dixon is woken up in the Peterson Event Center. And then they need to share the ball and work really hard to get good shots. That's what they need to do. And not even deep shots. I just don't even know how much. What did they attempt? Like 4 3-pointers or something like that against Wilmington? And 2 of them were John Hughley. I mean, it's just not. It's not who they are. It's not part of their game. It's not something that they're good at. And it's not something they're going to be good at. And they have, and I think they have accepted that. And they have to adjust the way they play. And a lot of that is going to be John Hughley banging down low. And I want Hughley to be as physical as he can. I don't want him fouling out of every game, but at least one offensive foul per game, I'd be okay with it. If it's him knocking a guy down, throwing his hips into him and knocking him down. I'm okay with that because I want John Hughley to be that kind of player. I remember thinking this in the preseason after we watched maybe the practice or maybe the scrimmage. And I said, or actually it was the exhibition game. It was the Gannon game. And I walked out of there thinking like John Hughley is just not who I want him to be. And it's not fair to say I want him to be DeJuan Blair, but I want him to have some of those characteristics. DeJuan was a freak. I mean, nobody else is going to be DeJuan Blair. That's an impossible standard to set for any player. But I think there are things in DeJuan Blair's game and attitude and approach on the court that John Hughley can try to mimic. He's built a little bit like Blair. Might be a little bit taller than Blair was. I don't know. I'd have to see him standing up next to each other. But he's built a little bit like Blair. He's got the kind of build that, the Pitt football coaches are probably like, man, I'd love to have that guy like offensive tackle or D end, Because, the Pitt coaches used to say that to me about DeJuan Blair. Be like, oh, God, if we had him as a pass rusher, look out. That's the kind of, that's sort of the build that Hughley has. And I want him to use that. I want him to be physical. I want him to knock guys around to the point where he does take a foul or two. Again, not to get into foul trouble, but get rough. You know what I mean? Make it rough to live under the basket against Pitt. I want Hughley to have that kind of reputation. I want Hughley to have that kind of attitude. And I want Hughley to have that kind of impact. I mean, he is, he's through 3 games. He looks like their best player. And that's okay. And that's good. It's good. It's good if he's taking those kind of steps forward. And I don't think that's damning with faint praise or, process of elimination that Hughley's the best player because nobody else even deserves that moniker. I think it's because he has played better than anyone else. And that's a good thing. You know what I mean? If you're going to pick a spot, obviously you'd like your point guard to be your best player. But a lot of Pitt teams have had success with strong play at the center position, but just not in a long time. If this Pitt team could develop that, again, they're not going to have an outside game. And it's going to be difficult in there because they're going to pack it in. Opponents have no reason to defend the 3-point line right now. And I'm not sure Pitt is going to be capable of making anyone pay for that. Maybe if they get Ethiel Horton back at some point this season, he can have some impact there, but you can't count on that. You can't bet on him coming back. I'm not. Are you? I don't even know if the Pitt coaches are. I think obviously they'd like to have him back. He could help them and improve their offense, but I don't even know. You have no idea when that's going to happen. And so for right now, you got to go with what you got. And what you got is John Hughley. You have one young ball handling point guard who's still developing. He's clearly not arrived in Femi Odikale. You've got Jamarius Burton coming back in, who I think can make a positive impact. Not a huge, burst of offense, but at least give you another, a veteran ball handler. And then you got to build out from there and see who emerges. Is Mo Gee going to emerge? Is Dan Oladapo going to emerge? Is Will Jeffress going to take a step forward? I like I remember looking at one point and Will Jeffers had like 7 points and 9 rebounds and 3 steals. And I'm like, that's a good Will Jeffers line right there. And he was playing tough defense. His offense just is not, it has not developed yet. And I think I like what Will Jeffers does defensively. I think he attacks the boards and is an asset on rebounding. I think he's a like I say, he's a real pest defensively in a great way. And Pitt will put him on the opponent's best players. If it's a wing, and maybe even if it's a guard. And I think he'll make life difficult. I said it before. I want this team, and I think this team. I think they need to do this, given their makeup. I want this team to just annoy the hell out of their opponents. And just be frustrating to play against. Either through like smothering defense or how they get after. How they get after you. They just get in your face and kind of push you around a little bit. And yeah, they might foul, and yeah, they might be lousy on offense. But man, I want every opponent who leaves to be a little bit angrier when they leave, even if they won, than they were when they came in. Because if you're not going to win a lot of games, and if you're not going to score a lot of points, the least you can do is piss a bunch of people off. You might as well make it frustrating to play against you. Make that a goal. And who knows? Maybe you frustrate some other teams enough that they make some mistakes and you're able to win a couple ugly games. It's not that far from, the early Jamie Dixon, Ben Howland, style. Of just, look, you remember, I think, Louisville's first year in the Big East, and they're playing Pitt, and Rick Pitino has something like, they're playing a damn football game out here. Well, yeah, do that. Do that. And if they're going to call everything in the ACC, make them call everything. You only got like 9 scholarship guys anyway. And if you end up, 1 through 9, not that drastic of a difference from 1 to 9. And what are they going to do? They can't foul every guy on your team out. And I'm not saying you take a bunch of cheap fouls or dirty fouls. You don't want to be a dirty team, but you can play in a really frustrating manner. You can annoy teams. And you might as well make that your goal. Just dig deep and just be a pain in the butt. You might as well be known for something. Make an impact on this league just by annoying everyone. You might as well try it. I'm serious. And it sounds like a joke, but I don't know how you can make all that much improvement 3-point shooting with the current roster. With the guys they have available, I just don't see this team really making an impact. They might have one game here or there where they make like 6 or 7 threes, but it's highly unlikely and it's not going to happen too often. Okay, so if you don't have that, you're extremely limited in your offense. And so attack the glass, defend like crazy, and drive a lot. Have Femi Odekale just dribble into the paint over and over and over again. Sometimes dish to John Hughley, sometimes kick it out to somebody else who's going to drive into the paint and either take a charge or a block. Really. I don't think it's the worst thing. So, that's what I would do if I was Pitt. Just try and be a giant pain in the butt. All right, let's see here. Brock McDonagh, one of our regulars, says, you bailed on us on Thursday night. Yeah, I know. We talked about that, Brock. He says, saw today that Pitt is a slight favorite for Bradley Mann. Thoughts on his upcoming decision? So Bradley Mann, defensive end, offensive tackle from Jacksonville. He was committed to Pitt, decommitted from the Panthers. And now he wanted to look around at his options. I think he had some people in his ear kind of pushing him to look around and decommit from Pitt. So he did that. And now he's set, I think December 1st is his commitment date, he announced. And Pitt's still involved, very much so. As a matter of fact, Bradley Mann is planning to be at the Pitt-Virginia game this Saturday. He's coming up to Heinz Field for a visit from Jacksonville, Florida. And he already took his official visit over the summer, so he's coming on his dime to watch Pitt in person. I think they got a real chance. Real good chance. Coaster King, have you heard anything regarding the apparent smoker on 2023 defensive end Neo Avery? Avery's a kid. He's obviously a junior in high school, not a senior, so there's a lot of time left. I think he's in Maryland. It seems like Pitt's in strong shape with him there. 4-star in some services, 3-star, I think, on Rivals. Seeing a little bit of smoke. Not sure where it's going to go, but we'll keep an eye on it for sure. And with those younger guys, you never know which ones might be inclined to commit a little bit earlier, which ones are going to hold it out. But we'll see what we can find out about Avery. Sports World PA says, I think we need to give Jeff Capel more time. I hope that he doesn't leave us. He has it rough here. He's basically had to restart every year. Had that on my mind. Well, I mean, that's definitely a different perspective than a lot of people have. I'll say that. A lot of people don't feel like... So we were talking on the message boards about luck and the luck that Pitt has had, and that they've had some bad luck, some stretches of bad luck over the years. And and certainly this year, when you have Jamarius Burton out for a little while to start the season, Nike Sabandi tears an ACL in the exhibition game. Ithiel Horton, obviously with his situation, and that's not bad luck on his part, but I think it's bad luck for Capel and for the Pitt program. But a lot of the responses are, well, you need to make your own luck. And Capel did a lot to put himself in this position. And I think there's some truth to that. I think he did. Ultimately, Capel's responsible for building the roster. Ultimately, Capel's responsible for roster management. Those things fall on him. And so I think you can kind of say both. I think you can say he's had some rotten luck at times. And I think you can also say that, well, he has had a hand in that. He put this roster together. Did he do the best job managing the roster last year or the year before? Did he do the best job constructing the roster for this year? I'm not entirely sure. You know what I mean? I think you can make a case that there were a lot of shortcomings in how he's done. But I think he's also done a good job developing some players. I think Audice Toney made significant improvements over the course of his career at Pitt. Xavier Johnson was a tough one to reach. Trey McGowan's, it seems like, was a bit of a tough one to reach during his time here. But Justin Champagnie did not profile as an NBA draft pick. I mean, I know he didn't get drafted, but didn't profile as an NBA player coming out of high school as a recruit. Not that he was going to be a bum, but I think Jeff Capel deserves quite a bit quite a bit of credit for the improvement that Champagnie made. But he's in a situation now where, in year 4, he's got a roster with no offensive punch. And that's problematic. That's a problem. It really is. Steven Gertz, our guy, Steve, the hoops expert and analyst at Panther-Lair.com, says he wants a live podcast at the Huddle so he can eat their wings. I've been told that I'm not supposed to talk about the Huddle publicly anymore because I'm letting too many people know that the Huddle in Beachview is the spot for wings and maybe the best wings in the city. I'm not supposed to talk about that anymore, though. So you didn't hear that. Chris Gates Fitness says, Chris, what do you think? Is Brennan Armstrong really going to play Saturday, or is Bronco Mendenhall playing mind games? So, look, Brennan Armstrong hurt his ribs against BYU. That was, 3 weeks ago. Then they had an off week, and then they played Notre Dame last week. Armstrong did not play against Notre Dame last week. Their offense was terrible. They only scored 3 points. Obviously they are a much different and much worse team without him. Is Brennan Armstrong, are they trying to play strategy? Given what Virginia's quarterback Jay Woolfolk looked like against Notre Dame, I don't think that, he's a different player from Armstrong. So yes, it takes up more time for Pitt to have to prepare for both of those guys. Whether you think Armstrong is playing or not, if you want to prepare for both, that takes more time. But Armstrong is obviously the one who can really hurt you. And so he's the guy that you probably do spend more time preparing for, as opposed to if you knew he was out, then you wouldn't prepare for him at all. There's been a lot made about the video of him throwing before the Notre Dame game during warm-ups and seeming to grimace a lot. I just don't know. I don't think it's all a mind game. I don't think it's all playing, strategy to hold out Brennan, to hold out Brennan Armstrong last week. I think if Brennan Armstrong could have played against Notre Dame, he would have, even though this is the game that matters, and that game doesn't really impact Virginia overall. It doesn't impact their standing in the Coastal Division or in the ACC or anything like that. I think that if Armstrong could have played against Notre Dame, he would have. I think if he can play this week, he will. I don't see any way he's close to 100%, though. And if you're playing with a rib injury, which appears to be the case with Armstrong, even 3 weeks on, a rib injury could be a pretty painful thing to sort of suffer through, particularly if you take a few shots. And look, Pitt's defense got 5 sacks on Sam Howell last week. Granted, they were all in the first half, but if you get 5 sacks on if Brennan Armstrong plays and you get 5 sacks on him in the first half this week, I'm not sure that he plays the second half. It might be too much pain, or he might be really injured. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if Armstrong comes out and plays. But I don't know that he's going to be able to slow down Pitt's offense. Because to me, last week we talked about this being Pickett versus Howell and offense versus offense and how they were going to leave all these points and be all these yards and everything like that. And it didn't quite play out that way. But this game, Virginia's defense is worse than Carolina's defense. Virginia's defense has 11 sacks all season. They've played 10 games. They have 11 sacks. It's not a good defense. It's not one that gets pressure on the quarterback. It's not one that stops the run particularly well. Pitt's offense should be able to do whatever they want against this Virginia defense. And if that's the case, if they do what they're supposed to be able to do against a defense like this, I don't see what impact, I shouldn't say I don't see what impact Brennan Armstrong has. He would have a huge impact because he's a great quarterback. But I see Pitt's defense making more stops than Virginia's defense. So, with Armstrong, I like Pitt's chances. Without Armstrong, I really like Pitt's chances. I don't mean to be overconfident. I'm certainly not guaranteeing anything. I've learned my lesson on that many enough times, or plenty of times. But it just seems to me that this is Pitt's game to win. This is Pitt's game to win, with or without Brennan Armstrong on the field. See here, William Schroeder says, bought my tickets for the game this Saturday. There were still a lot of seats available. We really need to have a huge crowd come out and show our support for a great season so far. You would think with this being the final home game of the season, senior day for Kenny Pickett and all these guys, Pickett alone, but certainly the rest of this class, you would think the fans would want to show up. What's the weather going to be like on Saturday? I got it right here. Hold on. Saturday, high of 48. So it's going to be cold, but it looks dry, right? Cold is okay. Wet is not. It's going to be a cold one, but it's football weather. It's football in November. This is what it should be. You should have games that matter, and they should be played in the cold. So, I would think if I was a Pitt fan, I would probably try and find a way to make it to this game. Sports World PA says, do you think the student section will rush the field if they win, or will there be a trophy ceremony? I don't think they'll rush the field, and I don't think they should rush the field, and I think it would be really hard to rush the field. If you look at the front of the student section, it's a long way down. They have to jump pretty far, a significant height. I don't know if it might be more than 6 feet. So, it's not too bad, but somebody's going to get hurt if you try and do that. And I just think you don't need to rush the field. The players are going to come over and celebrate with the students, and it's going to be fun and exciting like that if they win. I don't think you need to rush the field. I don't think there will be a trophy ceremony. When they won at Wake Forest, the trophy was there. I think they just presented the trophy to the team in the locker room, the Coastal Division Championship trophy. I don't think they'll do anything like that on the field. I know Pitt had T-shirts made 3 years ago at Wake Forest, where they put the shirts on that say Coastal Champions and all that kind of thing. But I don't think they'll do anything on the field. So, if they are to win, I think there will be a trophy, but it'll probably just be in the locker room. Will Z says, I don't know if many students will be there, to be honest. Their break starts Friday and many students go home. It's time for the general crowd to make some noise. Yeah, the adults definitely need to show up and make a lot of noise and command, take control of this crowd. I'll be interested to see the students turn out. So you're saying their break starts Friday, so they have no classes next week. I guess in advance of Thanksgiving. I felt like we used to have classes on Monday or Tuesday, but maybe not, or maybe it's changed. Certainly a lot of things have changed in the last 20 years, so I can't assume that they do the campus schedule the same way they did when I was in school. But I'll be interested to see the student section, because the students have been great all season. The students have shown up every game. They've been better than the adults. And I hope they can make it. I hope a lot of them can make it for this game and get to enjoy this one, because this should be a good one for them. Another super chatter jump in. Let's see where it is. Oh, 220. Jumps in as a super chatter, and we appreciate that. He says, Chris, how come when the Big Ten and SEC beat up on each other, it's called parity, but when the ACC does it, the conference stinks? Part of it is brand names. You know what I mean? Like right now, I mean, obviously Clemson, Florida State, Miami, these programs are down-ish right now. Whereas I think, and those are the marquee names. So you look at the Big Ten, you've still got Ohio State winning, Michigan State winning. You look at the SEC, you've got some of those prominent, the prominent programs at the top are winning. And I think it just creates, when you have the best teams and you have like multiple programs doing really well, and they're the prominent programs with the brand names, I think it makes the whole conference look good. Whereas, here in the ACC, it was Clemson. It was Clemson and everybody else. If you had like a couple other teams that were ranked in the top 15 or top 10, then maybe you'd be talking about the ACC a little bit differently. But I think the overall view is that they're not good teams. So when they all beat up on each other, it's just lousy teams beating up on other lousy teams. There's an ACC. There's a perception problem the ACC has had to fight, and part of it is, like I said, that it's just been Clemson. And before that, it was Florida State for a couple years. And nobody else has really emerged as a legitimately good team. I mean, do you think the rest of the country really believes in Wake Forest? I know they got them ranked, what are they, 10 right now? So, they've got that, but I don't think anybody really believes in Wake Forest. And if they lose to Clemson this weekend, they're going to drop. Probably a decent amount. And, if they end up still in the ACC championship game, if they lose that, they'll drop. I don't think anybody really believes in Wake Forest, and part of that is just due to the perception of Wake Forest and that brand or lack of brand recognition. All right, let's see here. Let's try and get a bunch of comments and questions in here in the final 10 or 12 minutes. Garrett Sherwin, maybe a little early, but what do you think the quarterback situation looks like next year? Well, that's a really interesting question, Garrett, and it's going to be really interesting to watch. I think Nick Patty enters the offseason as the front runner. I think Davis Bevell competes with him. I think it ends up being one of those two guys. And if I had to guess on one of those two guys, my guess would probably be Patty, just based on him being a little bit older and having a little bit more experience. I'm not ruling out the possibility of Davis Bevell winning the job. I'm not ruling out the possibility of bringing in another transfer quarterback. And look, if this continues here, if Pitt does win 10 games in the regular season and gets some postseason accolades and has some postseason success, and Kenny Pickett, his star continues to rise with this offense, and Mark Whipple comes back, I mean, that's a pretty, and you've got Jordan Addison, you've got these running backs, you've got the, Gavin Bartholomew, you've got these other receivers coming back. I mean, that's a pretty attractive situation for a transfer quarterback, particularly a guy who wants to build his stock, and improve his stock heading into the, into the NFL. I'd have to think it's a pretty attractive situation, and they should be able to get a decent quarterback who wants to come in. That's if they want to pursue the transfer route. But I think there's a lot of ways it can go. Like I say, I think Patty, Bevel, or possibly a transfer. Will Thompson says, can we talk about Eric Hallett? I don't think he receives enough attention for his play against Josh Downs of North Carolina. Yeah, Hallett, has had some struggles this season. But, man, I think he was really on point against Carolina. He had a play, and we talked about this. It might have been the second drive, Carolina's second drive. They had like a 3rd and long. And Downs caught a pass, and he was going for a first down. And he was going to make the first down. And he might have kept going. He might have gone even further than the first down. And Hallett dove and made a shoestring tackle that it was so close. He just barely got him. But, man, he got it. He made the play. And he made a number of plays, not just like that, some a little more sure than a shoestring tackle. But, it's he played really well. I think he was really sound in his tackling. I think he was really sound in his coverage. I think Eric Hallett has grown as the season has gone on. I think he had rough games. I think he's had better games, and I think he's playing well right now. And particularly if they have Brennan Armstrong back on Saturday for Virginia, he's going to need another big game, no doubt. Sports World PA says, I don't think Jeff Capel is the problem. I think the kids that he is recruiting don't remember when Pitt was a good basketball program. It's hard to get people here, it seems. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I think there's I think if you're Pitt, if you're a program like Pitt, a basketball program like Pitt, you need success. Maybe you need to win and make yourself relevant nationally, like Pitt was in the 2000s. And it's really hard to recruit here, I think, if you don't have that to sort of back it up. And I think part of the appeal with Jeff Capel was his connections throughout the Carolinas and his purported recruiting acumen, and how he was going to be able to sort of recruit over, even without some of that recent relevance. He was going to be a good enough recruiter to overcome that and get the talent in. And that hasn't really happened. I mean, to some extent it has. So, I mean, obviously he got that first class with Johnson and Tony and McGowan's, and that was a home run. Will Jeffers was a really good get for Pitt and Capel. Obviously he found a stud in Justin Champagnie. I think John Hewley was a really good get. He's had some moments, but he hasn't had it hasn't been good enough. You know what I mean? And he hasn't been consistent enough. And then the success hasn't followed. And so you're still recruiting to a program that doesn't have all that much relevance on the national stage. And that's really tough. And it's not a blue blood program. It's not a program with a lot of tradition to fall back on. It's not something you can, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have that prominence. And so if you're not winning right now, it can be tough to recruit. It can be tough to recruit. And I think the expectation or the hope was that Capel will be able to overcome that, but it hasn't happened. RJCman38 says, who would you give credit more for Pickett's improved play? COVID giving him an extra year, Peyton Manning's mentorship, or Mark Whipple? I would say I think it would be a combination of Pickett's experience, the time he has on the field, the playing experience that he's got, and then being, the experience that he's got working with Mark Whipple in this offense. And I think Whipple's coaching has a lot to do with it. I think he's helped Pickett develop into the quarterback that he is. And I mean, you guys see it just like I do. I mean, he didn't play like this last year. He didn't play like this in 2019. He didn't play like this in 2018 when he was a sophomore. He is playing at a really, really high level. He made passes on Thursday night. The touchdown pass to Jared Wayne was beautiful. Pat Bostic on the radio call, they tweeted it out, video from the radio booth of Bill Hillgrove and Pat Bostic, and that touchdown pass to Jared Wayne, Bostic I think he called it a dime piece. It was just a beautiful throw. But I'll tell you what was even a better throw. Early in the game, the first pass to Lucas Krull that was dropped was one of the best passes Pickett has thrown all season. Go back. I keep meaning to go back and find it and tweet out a GIF of it or something. Because when they showed the replay, it could not have been placed more perfectly. It was an immaculate pass. And Krull couldn't pull it in. Now, obviously, he made a couple key catches later, like the game winner in overtime. But we're not talking about Lucas Krull here. We're talking about a pass that was it was exactly what it should be. It could not have been thrown better. That's his improvement from year to year. He's a much better quarterback this year. And Peyton Manning, I don't know. Peyton Manning's mentorship, I don't know. But I know that he's been working with Mark Whipple for 3 years now. And I'm going to give Whipple a lot of credit on it. PGH says Virginia's defense is last in the ACC in sacks and rushing yards allowed. Pitt's offense should be able to go up and down the field. Yeah, I think so too. And look, I think we all said that heading into the Carolina game, and it didn't quite happen, particularly in the second half. I think Virginia's defense is worse than Carolina's. So, I'm still betting on this offense. I'm betting on Kenny Pickett. I'm betting on these guys being able to do what they've done pretty much all season. And I think they should be able to put up a lot of points and a lot of yards on this Virginia team. Let's see here. Jacob Ludi says, how much of a difference do you think Brennan Armstrong playing or not will make? I mean, it'll be huge. It's you're talking about, maybe the most productive player in college football this year, rushing and passing. And if you put him on the field, he's a difference maker. Now, you put him on the field at less than 100%, and the impact he can make and the difference he can make, those things lessen. It's not quite as significant, but he's a difference maker. And I think for Pitt, it's better to have him off the field than it would be to have him on the field. Let's see here. Just scrolling through here. We got just a couple minutes here. I want to get couple more comments. Let's see what else we have to say. I don't think we have any other super chatters jumping in, but I want to see. Oh, Steven Gertz, our guy, who's like I say, great basketball analysis, says talking about Pitt basketball. It says the shot selection is bad. Hughley and Femi Odikale sat at the same time. Chris Payton was -9 during a stretch where UNC Wilmington made its run. A lot of experimental lineups, which I think is part of it this year. And Jeff Capel's mentioned it a few times of, that they practiced for all that time with Horton and Burton and Sabandi, and then they end up opening the season without all three of those guys. And they finally got Burton back. Sabandi's not coming back, and Horton is up in the air. Steve Gertz says Pitt's two most popular sets, horns and 5 out. The other big is more or less useless offensively. Run a ton to get Hughley ball in post with an empty corner and can't get ball to him. Yeah, if you guys want to know, if you want to know a lot about Pitt basketball and what they're doing on the court and what's really happening out there and really understand it, you got to check out our in the film room sessions that we do. Steven puts them together. He puts film clips and breaks it down. Really kind of gives you an idea of, look, we can look at it and be like, oh man, Pitt stinks at doing this, but they're really good at doing that. That's the kind of analysis you get from a bonehead like me. Steve comes through and says, here's the film. Here's what they're trying to do. Here's what's supposed to happen. This guy's supposed to go there and this guy's supposed to go there, but they're not, and that's why this play doesn't work. Or that's why this play does work, because they do the right thing. That's right. I mean, that's how you actually learn about the sport. I learn a lot when I read Steve's stuff. And actually tomorrow on Thursday on the site, we'll have his likes and dislikes from the win over Wilmington. So you have to definitely check that out. Let's see. I'm scrolling down. Will Z says it'd be fun to do a live podcast. It'd be fun to meet some of these people publicly. Sports World PA says a post-game show in the parking lot. I actually joked on Thursday night. If you guys follow Jagoff Brewer, Andy from Hitchhiker on Twitter, at Jagoff Brewer, he said something about doing shots in the parking lot. Because I tweeted that, I said it would take extreme circumstances for me to do a live stream after the game. And Pitt went and, extreme circumstanced the hell out of that game. And I think Andy tweeted something about, doing shots. And I said, listen, if you are still in the parking lot, having a tailgate, doing shots, when I leave this stadium, I will come to your tailgate, do shots, and do the live stream right there. All right. So I guess I could put that out there as a blanket offer, because I'm trusting it'll never actually come to fruition. But when I leave the stadium on Saturday after the Virginia game, if people are still in the parking lot tailgating and doing shots, tell me. I will come to the tailgate. I don't know if we'll do a live stream, but maybe we'll like an abbreviated version of the drive home podcast, and we'll see what the Pitt fans are saying in the parking lots after the game. That'll be fun. If you have shots, you have to have shots. If you don't have shots, we can't do it. Let's see. What do we got here? Got just a couple minutes left. Talking about talking a lot about uniforms and things like that. Will Z starting some predictions. Everybody's picking Pitt to win so far. I mean, I think it's I think that's the safe bet. You want my pick? I think Pitt's going to win this game. I think they should win it. I don't think it should look like the Duke game, but it should. I would think it'll look more like. Excuse me. I think it'll look more like Georgia Tech than it'll look like Carolina. And I don't mean to disregard Virginia or what they have on their team, their personnel, their players. They've recruited well. Bronco Mendenhall's a good coach, but particularly if Brennan Armstrong doesn't play. I just don't think. It just seems tough for me to imagine Virginia keeping up with Pitt and scoring with Pitt. With how bad Virginia's defense has been this season, it seems to me that Pitt should win this game. Clinch the Coastal, go beat Syracuse, and get ready for the ACC championship game. Oh, if you guys haven't checked out the Kenny Pickett Show this week, you definitely have to do that. It's like 20 minutes. Look, you just sat here through an hour-long podcast of me just rambling on and on. You should definitely check out 20 minutes of Kenny talking, because Kenny's far more interesting than I am. And, I lob questions up to him, and he does a he does a great job. Answering, I don't know. It's just great. We talked about everything this week. From I gave him a trivia question about which player on his team leads the team in yards after the catch per reception. We talked about late game situations when the clock is ticking down, 5, 4, 3. What do you do? How is that in a quarterback's head, which was really interesting, I thought. We talked about that Carolina game. We talked about, ran the gamut on topics. He wouldn't admit that Carolina is the team that he hates the most in the ACC, but I think we all know that's true. And he still made another reference to Brady Quinn, which I'm trying to talk him out of doing that, trying to get him to stop making Brady Quinn references, but some things I guess you just can't break. But definitely go check that out. It's on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, you need to do that, particularly like this Saturday night. All right, we're going to have a post-game show. I don't know what time that's going to start. Maybe 9:30. Depends on when I get done. It looks like Will Z is inviting me to his tailgate for shots in Gold Lot 1. So maybe after I get done at Will Z's tailgate, who knows what time we'll fire up the live stream. Maybe we will do it from Will's tailgate. But if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, right, you click the subscribe button. If you're watching right now, we've got that subscribe button down in your lower, your right-hand corner. You click that button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get a notification when we go live. So, people ask on Twitter, like, hey, man, what time is the show going to start? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I'll try and tweet it out. Hey, targeting a 9:30 start, 9 o'clock start, whatever it is. If you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, you'll get a notification on your phone, so you'll know when we go live. All right? That makes it real easy for you. And then you don't have to worry about whether you missed my tweet or this or that. So make sure you do that. Also, homefieldapparel.com. Check out this shirt. You want this shirt, okay? And you're definitely going to want to buy it next Friday when you can get 20% off for their Black Friday sale. Starts on Black Friday, November 26th. Runs all the way through the weekend through November 29th, which is Cyber Monday. You got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, okay? You're going to be really excited on Saturday if Pitt wins against Virginia. Hold that excitement for like 6 days and then go to Home Field on Black Friday and buy this Pitt shirt and get 20% off. Buy all their Pitt shirts and get 20% off. Super high quality. It's some of the best t-shirts that I own, and you can see how sweet the logos are. So go do that, homefieldapparel.com. Panther-Lair.com. You can buy gift cards at 20% off. You can get gifts for other Pitt fans or whatever sports fan is in your life, or just buy it for yourself. You can get stickers. I mean, they've got everything. You got to go check it out. Homefieldapparel.com, 20% off. You don't even need a promo code. 20% off at Homefield for Black Friday. So make sure you do that. All right. And then, of course, Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. It's a website. You need to check it out. Stay tuned all throughout the week. We got tons of content and coverage leading up to Pitt's game on Saturday, 3:30. Pitt, Virginia, Coastal Division on the line. Thanks so much for everybody tuning in tonight on the live stream. It's been a lot of fun as always. Thanks a lot to anybody who listens to the podcast through the week. We appreciate that as well. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you to the Super Chatters. You guys are the best. We'll talk to you Saturday night. See what happens. Pitt, Virginia at Heinz Field. We'll see you on Saturday.